Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Welcome back to part 2 of working on 3 Ficus religiosa Bonsai. In part 1, I defoliated and pruned up my largest Ficus religiosa. In part 2, I'm going to begin work on the medium-sized one. All 3 of these trees, my large, my medium, and my small, are all the same age. They're about 26, 27 years old. They came as a clump in a single pot, and I separated them, and I've been growing them ever since. Here's a look at the medium-sized Ficus religiosa that I'll be working on today. It's in a 3D printed pot down here, and I printed that up at our local library quite a while ago, and I can't remember how many years it's been in this pot. I would guess 3, maybe 4 years since I planted it. Underneath that 3D printed pot, I've got a Japanese clay pot that I'm going to repot it into. The 3D printed pot is beginning to decompose. It's just made of PLA plastic, which is a biodegradable plastic. They last, as I said, 3 or 4 years before they start getting holes in them and falling apart. So I kind of make them out of PLA first. Have a look at the design, verify the design, make sure they can print okay, and then you can always print them with a higher quality plastic later. You can see that underneath the pot here, I see roots poking out. That's why I decided to check underneath my clay pot in part 1, because I've seen all the roots underneath here. So let me tip the tree up and you can have a look at them. So here they are. So you can see the mat of roots on the bottom of the pot. Growing in the pot with the main tree here, there's a little shoot. I don't know if that came up from the rootstock or if when I pruned it there's a little piece of a cutting or something that fell into the soil. I don't know. I'll check it out today to see if it's connected to the root system. Here's a close-up of that nice bark that forms on the Ficus religiosa. It's always kind of fine like that, but it's just enough texture to kind of give it a nice miniature appearance. You can see on the smaller tree how small you can actually get the leaves. I think that's about as small as you'll ever get them, kind of that size. Quite a reduction. I'll begin the work now. I'll have to get the tree out of the old pot, so I'm going to have to prune away all these roots on the bottom. So here I go. Quite a mat of roots. So this pot is styled after the Chinese marble pots. It's made to kind of look like a marble pot, and I painted it up sort of. I put a bit of weathering on it to look like marble. That's my dream someday, to have a marble pot. I think that would be so cool. I love them. Okay, so there's a lot of the root system off. You can see the paint that came off of the plastic here. So a little more cleanup, just so I can lift the tree out properly without these roots holding it in place. Okay, that should work. All right, so I've got to be fairly careful handling the tree. I don't want to upset the bark on it. So I'll try releasing it from the pot. Let's see if it comes out easily. It's not too bad. There it goes. So that pot's still quite solid. It's just kind of bowed out at the sides. It's quite often the plastic kind of warps a bit. Yeah, it was a nice pot. Kind of a cool design. All right, here's the tree. Pull out a weed here. So the next step is to begin raking out the roots. All right, here I go. I'll have to take this lovely moss off. Beautiful stuff. Today is one of the hottest days in a long time. It's 31 degrees Celsius today and 75% humidity. So it's just absolutely tropical out today. This morning it was really foggy. It was warm and foggy, and that humidity just never left. It's just here. So it's great weather for the ficus trees, the tropical trees, but not so much for us humans. It's a little warm. So I was looking on the internet, I was looking at pictures of Ficus religiosa trees, trying to find pictures of mature ones, and I noticed there was, as I said, a lot of mislabeled pictures of Ficus religiosa. A lot of the pictures were Ficus rumphii. They weren't Ficus religiosa. They had tons of aerial roots, and Ficus religiosa doesn't really get that. They do get a beautifully fluted trunk though, just outstanding. Amazing on some of the older trees. So while I'm working at combing out the roots here, I'll show you some photographs from the internet, and yeah, you can get some ideas of how these Ficus religiosa look as they get old and mature. They're fantastic. So that was a look at the full-size Ficus religiosas. Quite an impressive tree. Gives you an idea of the kind of typical styling of them also. There's a root that hit the edge of the pot. Went along the edge. So it's a dense root system in this soil, but not too packed in that it's impossible to comb out. It's quite reasonable. Probably ideally it could have been repotted last year, but leaving it another year didn't really hurt it at all. There's not a lot of roots that hit the edge of the pot and start curling around. Most are, you know, quite a nice length and good ramification on them. So I originally got quite a pot full of these Ficus religiosa in that original, you know, nursery pot that I bought, and I've given a lot away. You know, Connor has one, and there's some other people in the club who've got them. Long ago I had them all in a forest, and it didn't look very good in a forest because of the large leaves, and they were quite small at that time, and it just didn't look so good. So they look better as a specimen tree, I think. If you did have them in a forest, you'd need a pretty large planting, I think, to make the forest look good. Okay, I think I'm going to start on the bottom now. Okay, so I'll tip the tree off the edge of the table, like this. And then I can start on the bottom. And I think, I'm quite sure this has a one-piece screen on the bottom, which hopefully isn't as big a problem as my other Sarissa tree. It doesn't look like there's as many roots kind of intertwined with the mesh, but I'm still not going to use that technique anymore. I'm going to keep separate drainage screens for each hole. So I will have to do some pruning here. There's some roots that have grown through the screen. Like that. There's another clump here, right around the drainage holes. I may have pruned these roots around the drainage holes before. Kind of prune them away. So here's that screen on the bottom. So there's a big one here on the other side of the screen that I've got to prune away. like that. So the screen is starting to come away now. It's very dry down here too. If you look at the soil underneath here, it's quite dry. Okay, I think the screen is almost pulled away. There's a few spots with it here still. And just a little bit more over here. So there were some good sized roots going through the screen. There. So all the screen's off. Now I can do a little more raking. All right, so I'll start raking out the soil on the bottom of the root mass here. And I'll have to wash these roots, get all the old soil out, so I can see the roots, see exactly what's going on before I start the root pruning. I can see there's a lot of thick roots that have developed. So it'll take a bit of pruning to get this root base back in shape, that's for sure. Okay, I'm going to take it over to the tub and wash it now. All right, into the water it goes. Do the old swishing around. And do a bit of raking and washing at the same time. I've got the root base all cleaned up so I can start the root pruning now. All right, here I go on the root pruning. So in this area, I don't have a lot of roots in between these two major ones. I've got maybe this one skinny one here, which actually comes off of this one, I think, but there's one down below that could thicken up. This root isn't very radial and it's quite high in the root base. I think there's a better one below, so I'm going to take that off. This one right here. Like that. There's a better root below there. Kind of flows a little nicer. Like that. So the root off to this side, I think I've cut it here before, because you can see it's very thick here and then it goes thinner here. It's not very attractive. It's kind of a thick bulbous root, but you know, I can't really correct it too much at this stage unless I were to split it or something. You can see off of it, it divides here into two and they're both really thick. There's one here that comes up out of the soil. I'll take that off for starters. I just don't want that. And that's also that where it hit the edge of the pot and turned a different direction, so that's no good. So this one has to be reduced back. It's too thick. So I'm going to come in here with a parallel cut to the ground, and that way all the new roots will kind of flow in nicely when they form. So here I go. Like that. Remove that major part off. Now the other part, that other part of that root doesn't flow at all very nicely. It's not radial, so I'm going to remove that entirely. Like that. Just does not flow in. I could probably even take more of this off. I think I will. So I can't really do a parallel cut here. I'll have to just kind of go like that. So I'm left with a little more fibrous roots in this area. So that kind of takes care of that one a bit. It's still not great looking. I'm going to remove this one sticking up the top here. I don't like that. So that brings us over to this one now. Another thick bulbous root that's being pruned, and there's a few good roots here. I'll just trim them off a little shorter, like that. And they'll grow new roots from those cut points. As I come around, there's a lot of fine roots coming off the top of this thick root. I'll just prune some of the ones sticking up off, keeping my better ones, like that. There's one here that's not going very radially. Take that one out. Here's one that's going 90 degrees. I'll get rid of that one. So everything else in this area is looking pretty good as far as surface roots anyway. I'll just clean this area out here. There is a thick root on the bottom here though. You can see it here, it's not radial, so that has to come off, like that. That's gone. So that brings us around to here, which is actually the front of the tree. I'm just gonna So I've got a root here that, you know, here's radial and it's going 90 degrees to that, so that's got to get removed, like that. That's gone. A little combing in this area is required. Figure out what's going on. Okay. It's all looking quite good actually. So there's a root here. It comes down and then it curls around, so I'm going to take it off here, keeping the good parts of the root, getting rid of the other parts. Just trim those ones back a bit. Everything's looking good here. There's a root on top here. I'm going to remove that one. It's kind of a little awkward looking, so same with this one. Clean up that root base a bit. Now if we come around, there's a root sticking up here. This one right here. Kind of sticks up out of the root base. It doesn't flow down nicely into the soil, so that has to be removed, like that. I'll do a little combing to see what else is in here. Hopefully some good roots. So there. So this one, it's not perfectly flowing into the soil, but it's not bad. I think I'll keep that one, and probably this one too. Okay. There's one coming out the bottom here. I gotta get rid of that one. That one's gone. So I think I've got all the surface roots in as good a shape as I can get them. They're not bad from this view. They're quite nice. The back view, they're a little, you know, you got these two thick ones. So not as good in this view. That's why it's the back. So I've got to balance the roots. I've got some vigorous ones that I've got to prune back. Some of these longer ones here, just taking them back. And out the side I have some here. Take those back. Okay, so that completes the surface roots, the pruning of those. I've just got to go underneath now and fix up the roots on the bottom. Okay, so anything kind of sticking straight down, prune off. Just keeping the roots that are fanning outwards, reducing all the others back really short. Cut this one off short too. Like that. know, trying to keep this root base fairly flat on the bottom. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. I think I'll give it a final wash. There's a look at the root base now. I think it's looking quite nice. Yeah, looking very miniature. I notice I have a root crossing here. I don't like that. I have to fix that. I just don't like major surface roots crossing like that. So one of those has to go. So which one would it be? The one up front's quite nice because it divides into two here, whereas this one just kind of goes behind. So I think I'm going to remove this one. Like that. And I don't know if I'll ever get it out. I think it's attached here. Prune that part of it away. And there it is. It's just something that bothers me. It's maybe a pet peeve of mine. Well, it's coming out all right. Let's see if I can poke it through from the top here. There it is. There it is. Come on. There it goes. I've got the base of it here. There. That came out it totally. So I think everything else is okay in that area. Okay, no more crossing roots now. It just bugs me. It always looks like someone with their fingers crossed like that. And I don't like that look. If you listen closely, you can hear the rain starting to fall. The tree is all ready for planting, so I'll get the pot ready. I'll get some drainage screens in the bottom, get a base layer of soil, and then I can position the tree in the pot. The pot that I'll be putting the tree in is a really nice Japanese pot. It has a chop on the bottom. The reason I got it so cheaply is it has a chip in the lip here, which doesn't bother me at all. You hardly notice it, but I got it for a really good price because of that. There's a close-up of that little chip there. I've got my separate screens in the bottom of the pot, so now I'll add a base layer of soil. This is a very shallow pot. And I think the Ficus religiosa will like it. It's a good size for the tree. Alright, here I go positioning the tree in the pot. So this is the front of the tree. At the nice root base, the main trunk comes forward. So if I have it here, it kind of leaves a lot of empty space in this area. I think because it leans to the left, I want it towards the right in the pot. I'm just going to get the front view here. Maybe not. It looks pretty good in the middle of the pot, you know, because the tree's kind of slanting. I think if I offset it, it would just be to the right-hand side a little bit. So I'm thinking maybe about here. That's where I'm thinking. Yeah. Let me get a bit of soil in around to hold the tree in place. Stay. I'll just build up a mound here. Place the tree on top. And I'll stand back. Here's a look at the tree from the front. And I'm not really liking that position. Most of the mass of the tree is over to the right-hand side in the canopy. There's not much over here. So it's kind of like too much empty space over here. So I think I've got to push the tree more to the left-hand side. So the tree is almost in the exact middle of the pot now, and it looks pretty balanced there. I actually like that. I'm going to try it to the left just a little more to see what it looks like. There it is to the left a little more. That actually looks pretty good too. fact, I think that is the location. I am happy with that. So I'm going to put soil in around the roots now. Just coming up front, having a look at it again. Yeah, I still think it's looking good. I need a little more soil around the base of the tree to get those roots firmly into the soil. And then as they get established, I can rake away all that soil on top and kind of expose the root base more. Okay, that soil level looks good. I'm going to give the tree a water now. So here I go. I'll place some stones around the root base just to hold the tree in the pot. I'll put it in the greenhouse, but I just don't want to accidentally bump it or anything, so that'll hold it quite nicely in the pot. That'll do. That should hold the tree securely in the pot until the roots get established, and then I can start raking away that top layer of soil to expose the root base. That'll be exciting to see that once again. I still have that little cutting over here, so I'll have to find a pot and plant that one too. I think for this planting, I'm going to use this pot that Isabella made, and it has a matte green finish on it, or glaze. So it's really cool. I like that pot. I think that'll suit it nicely, so I'll get that planted next. I don't know, maybe this way. This way there's a root coming straight at me, so I think I'll put it like that. So I'll get some soil and fill that in. And I'll give it a water. Well, that was a good day of repotting. I got both my trees repotted. I think I've taken both of these trees up to another level with this clay pot, giving the roots a little more room to grow. I didn't take any off the top of the trees. I'll see what happens. Maybe it'll drop a few leaves when it's in the greenhouse kind of recovering. We'll see. Let's head into the greenhouse, and I've got to see if I have any space for these trees in here. I might have to put them on a stool on the floor here. So let's see. I'm kind of full in here with recovering trees. I could put them here. That'd be a good spot. Yeah, it's pretty full in here. I could move these succulents out, clear a bit of space off here, I think. Yeah, I've got a lot of succulents here that should be outside, so I'll do that. I have cleared a space in the greenhouse, and I've got the Ficus religiosa in there. Let's go have a look. Boy, it's a hot day. Okay, here they are right here. So, lots of room for them. So I've got the medium-sized one, the little cutting off of it. I've got another Ficus religiosa cutting here that's rooted quite nicely. I'll have to prune that back soon. Here's all my other Ficus religiosa cuttings in here. I've got my big one here from yesterday, and I'm hoping that roots. That'll be awesome. The fans are still whirring away here, the solar-powered fans. My Sarissa's still looking good here after its repot. Yeah, doing quite well. I keep misting it all the time. That'll help it recover. Well, that's 2.5 ficuses down. I've got one more to go, my little tiny one. I'll see if we can do something special for this one for part 3 of this video. So that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.